As the summer heat intensifies across England, so too does the simmering tension on its streets. What began as isolated protests has erupted into a nationwide crisis, with towns and cities across the country becoming battlegrounds of chaos and violence. The catalyst? A toxic mix of anti-migrant sentiment, far-right anger, and the tragic killings in Southport. The scenes unfolding in real time paint a grim picture of a country grappling with deep-seated divisions. Fires rage, shops are looted, and police officers find themselves under siege from all sides. This is not just civil unrest, this is a full-blown national crisis, and the violence shows no signs of abating. The latest wave of riots in the UK has turned peaceful neighborhoods into war zones. In Rotherham, what was once a quiet town in South Yorkshire has now become a flashpoint of hatred and violence. A mob of far-right protesters stormed the Holiday Inn Express, a hotel repurposed to house asylum seekers, and set it ablaze in a terrifying show of force. The flames leaped into the sky as police scrambled to contain the situation, only to be met with a barrage of missiles, wood, and other debris hurled by the rioters. The sheer ferocity of the attack left one officer severely injured, carried away by colleagues as chaos continued to unfold. Inside the hotel, the asylum seekers, already vulnerable and displaced, faced an unimaginable terror, their fate hanging in the balance as the mob outside showed no mercy. Meanwhile, in Middlesbrough, a different kind of violence erupted. More than 300 protesters, fueled by anger and frustration, marched through the city chanting inflammatory slogans like "We want our country back." The air was thick with tension as they clashed with police, who struggled to maintain order. Slate, vapes, and full plastic bottles rained down on the officers, who used dogs to keep the protesters at bay. The streets turned into a battlefield as bollards were kicked into the roads to block police vehicles, and one man even took it upon himself to sit on a police car's bonnet, preventing it from moving forward. The scene was one of utter chaos, with tensions boiling over into violence that saw several people arrested and taken away in handcuffs. Bolton, Greater Manchester, was not spared from the unrest. Violent clashes between protesters and police erupted, the sheer scale of the confrontation forcing Greater Manchester Police to invoke Section 60 and Section 60AA, emergency powers that grant officers the right to stop and search individuals and demand the removal of face coverings. The atmosphere was electric with hostility as activists pushed against police barricades, their anger palpable. The once peaceful streets of Bolton now echoed with the sounds of shouts, clashes, and the heavy presence of law enforcement trying to keep a lid on the violence. As the riots spread, disturbing footage emerged from Sheffield, where masked individuals attacked a man carrying an England flag. The brutal assault, which saw the man kicked repeatedly while on the ground, was a chilling reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control. The violence wasn't confined to physical confrontations either. In Middlesbrough, a group of protesters took their aggression out on residential properties, smashing windows of houses and cars as they marched through the streets. The destruction left residents in shock and fear, with one woman screaming at the rioters, calling them fascist thugs, while her companion angrily confronted the police for their inability to control the situation. The roots of this violence trace back to the horrifying events in Southport on July 29th, where 3 young girls were brutally stabbed to death, allegedly by Axel Mugenwarudakubana. The murder sparked a wave of outrage and fear, which has now manifested in these riots. The anger was further stoked by inflammatory rhetoric from far-right groups, who seized on the tragedy to push their anti-immigrant agenda. As Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer condemned the violence, labeling it as organized violent thuggery, the rioters only seemed to grow more emboldened, their actions escalating with each passing day. Across the country, cities like Hull, Liverpool, Bristol, and Manchester have become scenes of devastation. Vehicles burned, shops were looted, and pedestrians were targeted in random acts of violence. The police, already stretched thin, have been struggling to maintain order, with several officers injured in the line of duty. The situation has grown so dire that additional measures, such as authorizing the courts to sit on weekends and increasing the number of prosecutors, have been implemented to try and stem the tide of violence. The violence is not just a spontaneous outburst, it is the culmination of a week of mounting tensions and anger. In Sunderland, a riot broke out on Friday evening, serving as a precursor to the widespread unrest that has since engulfed the nation. The scenes of destruction are particularly heartbreaking in communities that have worked hard to rebuild themselves. In Merseyside, for example, a community library and food bank that only opened last year was set on fire by rioters. The building, once a beacon of hope, is now a charred shell, with bookshelves overturned and glass scattered across the floor. The chaos has also given rise to opportunistic looting, with criminals taking advantage of the disorder to steal from local shops. Everything from phones to wine was stolen as the rioters rampaged through commercial districts, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. In the midst of this mayhem, the government's response has come under scrutiny, with some criticizing Prime Minister Starmer's decision to go on holiday during such a critical time. His absence has been met with criticism from both political opponents and the public, who feel that the leader of the nation should be present during this time of crisis. As the sun sets on another day of violence, the UK finds itself in the grips of one of the most severe periods of civil unrest in recent memory. The fires burning in the streets are not just physical, they represent the deep divisions and unresolved tensions within the country. The riots have left a trail of devastation, fear, and anger that will take much more than words to heal. As the nation braces for what might come next, one thing is clear: the UK is at a crossroads, and the choices made in the coming days will shape its future for years to come. The road to peace and reconciliation will be long and arduous, but it is a path that must be taken if the country is to heal from the wounds inflicted during these dark days.